The 20th century interaction between Finland and the USSR were covered in Chapter 1. To retake occupied territory and establish Finland as the USSR buffer zone with the West, the USSR invaded Finland. This is called the Winter War. Despite being too small and powerless to defeat the USSR, Finland defeated USSR in many battles by taking advantage of their familiarity with winter. However, Finland's misfortune is not yet over. So from now on, we can learn Finland's attempt to NATO and Russia's response. Even though Finland had won many battles, Finland was defeated in the negotiation. Finland finally gave up their land. According to the Moscow Peace Treaty, the USSR also ceded Karelia and the second city of Viipuri, particularly the harbor city of Viipuri, accounts for 15% of Finnish exports. Additionally, the military of the USSR in Hanko, which is a gun pointed at the center of Finland, causes the Finns to shudder in terror. Finland desired to reclaim the area from the USSR. Germany was the only nation that could assist Finland, though. On June 22, 2020, Germany invaded the USSR and Finland worked with Germany to retake the lost territory. It is untrue that Finland agreed to fascism and Hitler. In contrast to this, Finland's leader despised fascism. However, Finland lacked the strength to defeat the USSR on its own, and none of the other strong nations attempted to assist Finland. After Finland's defeat in the Winter War, Prime Minister Väinö delivered a speech in which he mocked himself. Hitler and Finland were forced to work together in order to retake territory with Germany's assistance alone. This is known as the Continuation War. Why then did the other nations do nothing in response to Finland's quarry? Actually, Finland received assistance from a few nations. During the Winter War, the Nordic nations, including Denmark, Sweden, and Norway, defended Finland. The issue though is that their strength was insufficient as well. The USA, the UK, and France were the three most influential democratic nations at the time. But first off, the US's foreign policy at the time was based on the isolation strength as exemplified the Monroe Doctrine, which forbade foreign intervention in internal European politics. Stalin also met with Roosevelt to request his assistance in mediating the war peacefully. So, the US was unable to enter the conflict. Many Americans felt sorry for Finland, but their feelings were limited to sympathy. Finland was also assisted by the UK and France. However, they aimed to prevent Germany from becoming more powerful. Germany's iron industry primarily sourced its iron ore from Sweden. In order to put pressure on Germany, the UK and France attempted to station troops in Lapland, Finland, which is close to Sweden. Realizing this, Finland became terrified that, even after the Continuation War, a strong nation might start a war in Finland again. Due to the lack of an army, unlike the UN today, the League of Nations, which was established to aid small countries, was a helpless organization. Most importantly, it was believed that Finland's attempt to invade and retake Karelia was inappropriate for other nations. Losing territory is understandable, but attacking the USSR core area made it clear that Finland had started the conflict and invaded the USSR. They believed that Finland should defend their border rather than seize them. In reality, the UK subjugated Finland so that they would be considered an open enemy if they continue on trespass on Russian territory. The USSR, a socialist nation, was not preferred by the West, but its strength was unavoidable in containing Hitler's immense power. Actually, the USSR victory over Germany, known as the Eastern Front, put an end to World War II by declaring Germany defeated. As a result, the West had a negative opinion of Finland's attempt to threaten the USSR. Following negotiation, Finland was forced to return Viipuri and the Karelian Isthmus to the USSR. The border between Finland and Russia appears to have been drawn erratically after years of border disputes because of this. Finland also had to make significant reparations because of its cooperation with Hitler during the war. Stalin actually forced Finland to pay enormous reparations that were so expensive that other nations were taken aback. Finland, though, was not annexed by the USSR. Stalin pledged that if Finland didn't attack the USSR wouldn't put its independence in danger. As a result, the Finno-Soviet Treaty of 1948 was signed in 1948. Stalin was actually worried about the opposition from the other Nordic and Baltic nations to the annexation of Finland by the USSR. Stalin also wanted to demonstrate how democratic the USSR was in order to show that other Western nations were not excluded from democracy. Finland, unlike the other Eastern nations that were merged into the USSR, was not thus annexed by the nation. But throughout the Cold War, Finland had to endure constant pressure from the USSR. The term Finlandization was coined to describe this Finland-USSR relationship. A powerful nation can Finlandize a less developed neighbor by forcing it to adhere to its foreign policy principles while still allowing to maintain its political system and pretense of independence. Finland made an effort to maintain its neutral state in this circumstance. Finland had already experienced two instances of hostility that continued the war. Therefore, Finland didn't want to let the USSR fare the long way for fear of being erased once more. Additionally, the USSR didn't want Finland to work with Western nations to invade the USSR once more. Therefore, Finland's neutrality is the only means of allying both nations' fears of one another. The same reasoning underlies Finland's continued opposition to the stationing of foreign troops, including nuclear forces. In light of the fact that foreign military had previously been stationed in Finland, Finland didn't want their territory to be used as other countries' battlegrounds. Finland was not a marshal plan country, so their post-war economic growth was slower than that of other European nations. Finland therefore had to rely on the USSR economically, and the USSR's pressure came along with it. However, they gained the UN recognition in 1995, which allowed them to settle their debt with the USSR and continue doing business with Western nations while remaining impartial. Finland, though, decided joining NATO. Even the Prime Minister Sanna Marin frequently voiced her support for Ukraine and her desire to join NATO. This is the same thing that Finland would give in order to maintain their long-standing neutrality policy. The Ukraine war is unquestionably the reason Finland changed its foreign policy. After witnessing Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Finland concluded that they were not safe either. After the collapse of the USSR, Finland repeatedly tried to leave Russia. However, joining NATO means that relations with Russia will be completely erased. The collective security of NATO is the main justification for joining. According to Article 5 of the NATO Charter, if one NATO member is invaded by force, the entire NATO alliance is considered to have been attacked, and the other member states must automatically intervene and defend themselves collectively. Finland has been working with NATO for a long time and is easily referred to as an enhanced opportunity partner. Due to its geographical proximity to Russia, the northern region has been difficult for NATO to exert influence. But if Finland were to join NATO, it could improve the security of the Nordic and Baltic countries and actively counter Russian aggression. Historically, Finland has had to fight for itself, but for the first time since independence, it now has a share to protect itself in times of danger. However, it is expected that global landscape may enter a new cold war once Finland joins NATO, and both Russia and Finland will need to navigate this potential crisis. So thank you for watching this video, and please don't forget to click the subscribe and the like button.